The great warship Velkara floated above a dying red planet. Its black hull shimmered under the twin suns scarred from 100 battles. Inside the command hall, giant alien soldiers stood like moving statues. Tall, armored, and proud. Their queen, Sereth of the Velkari, ruled them all. She was nearly 3 meters tall, her silver-blue scales glowing faintly in the dim light. Her eyes burned with power and pride. Today something unusual had happened. The queen was meeting her new personal bodyguard, a species she had never trusted. A human. The metal doors opened with a hiss and a small figure stepped in. The alien guards turned, some whispering to each other. The man was barely half their height. He wore black combat armor with a faint earth insignia. His face was calm, his eyes sharp, and a soldier's eyes. He saluted stiffly. Captain Eli Vance reporting for duty. The queen's gaze moved over him slowly from his boots to his face. Then a low laugh escaped her lips, a cold, amused sound that filled the hall. "You?" she said in her deep voice. "You are too small to be my bodyguard, human." The guards laughed behind her. One of them, a massive warrior with 4 arms, muttered, "He looks like a child with a toy gun." Eli didn't react. He simply stood still, hands behind his back. "With respect, Your Majesty," he said quietly. "Size doesn't decide strength." The queen smirked, showing sharp teeth. "Then what does?" "Training, will, and a little luck." Her amusement faded slightly. There was something strange in his voice, not arrogance, but certainty. She turned away, waving a clawed hand. "We shall see, little soldier. Try not to get crushed on your first day." That same night, the ship drifted through silent space. The Queen's fleet was returning from a victory, carrying prisoners and data cores from the enemy. Everyone believed the danger was over. Everyone except Eli. He sat in his quarters, scanning reports on a small tablet. Energy signals. Strange frequencies. Something didn't feel right. Humans trusted their instincts, and in his were screaming. Then the alarms started. Warning. Unidentified ships emerging from hyperspace. The deck trembled. Eli leapt to his feet as red lights flashed across the corridors. The sound of explosions echoed through the ship. Alien soldiers ran past him, shouting in their native tongue. The Queen's voice came through the comms. "All units, defend the bridge." Eli grabbed his pulse rifle and sprinted toward the command deck. The hallway ahead exploded. Enemy soldiers burst through, dark armor glowing red. They were huge insect-like creatures with claws like blades. One of them charged at Eli, roaring. He dodged, slid under its legs, and fired 3 quick bursts into its abdomen. The creature fell with a scream. Eli didn't stop. He moved like lightning, using his small size to his advantage, slipping through gaps, using cover, striking fast. When he reached the bridge, chaos ruled. The Queen's guards were fighting desperately. One fell, another screamed. The Queen herself stood in the center, surrounded by enemies. Without hesitation, Eli jumped into the fight. He threw a grenade, grabbed a fallen plasma blade, and cut through 2 attackers. The Queen turned, shocked to see the small human fighting with such fury. He shouted, "Behind you!" and shot the creature, aiming for her head. She spun and struck the last invader down with her own weapon. Then silence. Smoke filled the air. Bodies, alien and enemy, and lay scattered on the floor. Eli dropped to one knee beside her. "Are you hurt?" Her golden eyes locked on him. For the first time, her voice trembled slightly. "No, I am not." You saved my life," he nodded simply. "Just doing my job, Your Majesty." Outside, the ship's shields flickered and held. The enemy retreated, vanishing into hyperspace as quickly as they came. The bridge was a ruin, but the Queen lived. Hours later, the fires were out. The ship floated quietly again. But the council was furious. In the throne chamber, the alien lords gathered. They accused Eli of acting without permission. A human had no right to take command in a Velkari battle. "He endangered the Queen," shouted one. "He used forbidden weapons." The Queen sat in silence, her face unreadable. Eli stood before her, hands bound. He said nothing. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was calm but sharp. "He saved my life. When my best soldiers fell, this human fought alone. I saw it with my own eyes." The council leader growled, "It is against our law. He must face trial." The Queen rose from her seat. Her shadow fell over them all. "Then our laws are blind," she said. "Take him to the holding chamber until I decide his fate." Eli was escorted away. As the doors closed, the Queen's gaze lingered on him. For the first time in her long life, she felt something new. Curiosity. How could a creature so small fight like that? How could a species so weak stand against giants and win? As she stared out the window into the endless dark, she whispered softly, almost to herself, "Maybe. Small things are not so small after all." In his cell, Eli sat quietly, listening to the hum of the engines. He looked down at his hands, still shaking from adrenaline. He had faced death many times before, but this battle was different. The enemies had come out of nowhere, too precise, too sudden. It wasn't a random attack. Something, or someone, had known exactly where they would be. He leaned back against the cold metal wall and whispered, "This isn't over." Outside the window among the stars, a faint red light blinked once and vanished, as if something unseen was still watching the ship. Cold blue lights filled the prison chamber. The walls were made of living metal that moved slowly, like it was breathing. Captain Eli Vance sat alone on a steel bench, his wrists bound by glowing cuffs. The sound of the ship's engines pulsed softly through the floor, a steady heartbeat in the silence. He stared at the reflection of his own face on the wall. Dust bruises, blood on his uniform. He had fought, saved a queen, and now he was the prisoner of the same people he had protected. Typical, he thought. Humans never got thanks in alien politics. Outside his cell, tall guards stood motionless. Their armor shimmered with alien symbols. Every few minutes, one of them looked at him with disgust, like he was an insect trapped in glass. Then came the footsteps, heavy, echoing, slow. The doors opened and she entered. Queen Sarath of the Velkari. Her silver scales reflected the dim light, her eyes glowing faint gold. She carried no weapon this time, but her presence alone felt dangerous. The guards bowed deeply. She raised one hand. "Leave us," they hesitated. "Your Majesty." Now, the guards obeyed and left the chamber. The heavy door closed behind her with a thud. The air grew quiet again. Eli rose to his feet and nodded slightly. "Your Majesty." The queen studied him silently. Then she stepped closer, her shadow falling over him. "Do you always disobey orders, human?" Eli's lips curved into a faint smile. "Only when they're wrong." Her eyes narrowed. "You broke our battle code. You acted without command." "I acted to keep you alive," he said calmly. "If I had waited for orders, you'd be dead." She tilted her head, watching him carefully. "You think my life needed saving?" He met her gaze. "No, I know it did." For a moment, neither spoke. The ship groaned softly, metal shifting like a giant beast in its sleep. Then slowly the queen moved closer, close enough for him to see tiny cracks in her armor, places where plasma fire had burned through. "You were brave," she said softly, almost to herself. "But bravery and wisdom are not the same." Eli shrugged. "True, but both keep you breathing." A tiny smile flickered on her lips, gone as quickly as it came. She turned and walked toward the energy field that sealed the cell. "My council wants you executed," she said quietly. "They think you are a threat. They think humans are unpredictable." Eli's voice was low. "They're not wrong." She stopped and looked back at him. "Why fight for me, human? Why risk your life for a queen who mocked you?" Eli took a slow breath. "Because I've seen what happens when leaders fall. When they die, others suffer. Soldiers, civilians, families. I fight so people like them can live. Even if they don't thank me." The queen stood still, her face unreadable. Then, without another word, she touched the panel beside the door and deactivated his cuffs. The energy faded with a hiss. "Your words are strange," she said, "but I will listen. For now." He rubbed his wrists, nodding. "That's all I ask." Later that cycle, the queen sat in her private chamber. The stars outside the window looked cold and endless. The battle reports flickered across her hollow display. Half her fleet gone, systems damaged, communication jammed. But something else bothered her. The attack itself. It had been too perfect, too sudden. No one could have tracked the Velkara through dark space unless someone had betrayed them. She called for the ship's AI. "Scan all transmissions from the last cycle. I want to know how they found us." The AI's voice was cold and clear. "Unknown source detected." The signal came from within the fleet. Her eyes hardened. "A traitor." "Correction," said the AI. "A signal beacon was hidden inside the cargo from the last battle. It carries a human signature." The queen froze. A human signal? Back in the cell, Eli was sleeping lightly when the door opened again. Two guards stormed in and grabbed him roughly. "Hey!" he shouted. "What's this?" They dragged him down a long corridor to the war room. The Queen stood there, her face cold and distant. Around her, the council members glared at him with fury. The council leader slammed his hand on the table. "Explain this, human!" A hologram appeared in the air, a blinking red beacon with Earth's code pattern. Eli's eyes widened. "That's not mine." The leader growled. "It was hidden in our cargo. You led them to us." Eli shook his head firmly. "No, that's an old distress beacon, one we stopped using years ago. Someone planted it to make it look like me." "Lies," hissed another alien. "Enough," said the Queen. Her gaze pierced through him. "If you are innocent, prove it." "How did they find us?" Eli took a breath. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Because they weren't after you." "They were after me." The room fell silent. "What do you mean?" she asked. "They're not pirates. They're hunters. They follow human DNA. Enhanced soldiers like me. They want to finish what they started." "Started?" the Queen echoed. Eli looked up at her, his eyes dark. "Earth's military created something terrible, and I was part of it. They called it Project Helix. They wanted perfect soldiers, part human, part machine. I escaped before they could finish me. The hunters are the others, the ones who didn't escape." The council members exchanged uneasy glances. The Queen's voice softened slightly. "So you're saying, this is not my war?" Eli nodded. "Not yet. But it will be. Once they destroy me, they'll come for everything else. For you too." She looked at him for a long time, then dismissed the council. When they were gone, she stood close to him, her voice quiet but firm. "You're dangerous, human," she said. "But I believe you." Eli raised an eyebrow. "That's a surprise." Her golden eyes gleamed faintly. "You saved my life once. Perhaps you will save it again." She turned to leave. "From this moment you are free, but under my watch. Do not make me regret it." As she walked away, the ship lights dimmed. Outside the windows, far beyond the stars, a shadow moved, a fleet of dark ships following their trail. Eli watched the stars and whispered to himself, "They've already found us." The Velkara drifted through the dark sea of space like a wounded beast. Sparks still flickered in her corridors, and half the deck smelled of smoke and metal. Repairs were slow, the crew exhausted, and the silence after battle felt heavier than any explosion. Captain Eli Vance stood in the training hall, watching tall alien soldiers struggle with their new combat drills. He barked orders in his calm human tone, correcting their movements. "Not brute force," he shouted. "Speed!" "Think like prey that bites back," the warriors grunted, trying to copy his small but sharp movements. Their Queen had ordered them to learn his tactics, the strange human fighting style that had saved her life. At first, they had laughed. Now they sweated in silence. From the balcony above, Queen Serath watched, arms crossed. Her golden eyes studied every move. The human fascinated her. So small, yet his presence filled the hall. Every motion was precise. Every order, clear. No hesitation. When the training ended, she called to him. "Captain Vance." Eli turned, wiping sweat from his brow. "Your Majesty?" "Your methods confuse my soldiers," she said, stepping down to him. "You tell them to dodge instead of block, to retreat instead of strike. It feels cowardly." Eli smiled faintly. "Sometimes running keeps you alive long enough to win." She tilted her head. "Strange logic." He looked up at her, eyes steady. "Humans don't have claws or armor, Your Majesty. We survive because we adapt. We learn faster, and when we fall, we get up again." She held his gaze for a long time. Then, for the first time since meeting him, she nodded slowly. "Perhaps that is why your kind has lasted this long." That night, the Queen stood on her observation deck, staring into the vastness. Her reflection floated beside the stars, a silver goddess alone among darkness. The ship's AI flickered to life beside her. "Your Majesty," it said, a signal from deep space. "Unknown source," she frowned. "Location?" "Sector 9, moving toward us." "High speed." She narrowed her eyes. "Show me." A holographic map appeared. "Dots of light, any enemy ship say is moving fast." "Too fast. Hunters," she whispered. The AI paused. "There is another detail. They are broadcasting. A human frequency." Her scales tightened. "Eli." In the lower decks, alarms screamed. The corridors glowed red. Eli ran through smoke and shouting soldiers, checking monitors. The readings were bad. A fleet 3 times their size, closing in fast. He hit the comm panel. "Your Majesty, we need to move now." The Queen's voice came through, calm but sharp. "Where do we run, human?" "The storm follows you," he gritted his teeth. "Then we don't run. We fight smart." The hunters attacked before they could finish repairs. Their ships were black and silent, sliding through space like living shadows. They fired without warning. Plasma beams tore across the Velkara's shields, shaking every deck. The Queen commanded from the bridge, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Return fire. Form defensive wings." Eli stood beside her, scanning radar. "They're not targeting your fleet," he said slowly. "They're targeting me," she turned sharply. "You?" He pointed at the display. The enemy ships were circling, focusing on the Velkara alone. "They're tracking my DNA signature. They don't care about anyone else." The Queen's jaw tightened. "Then we give them something to regret." The battle began like thunder. Dozens of hunter ships surrounded them, raining fire. The Velkara's cannons blazed back, but the enemy moved too fast, weaving through explosions. Eli sprinted across the bridge, adjusting power to the shields. "Divert energy from lower decks. Concentrate everything on the front arc." The Queen glared. "That will expose the engines." "Trust me." She hesitated, then slammed her clawed hand on the control panel. "Do it!" The ship lurched forward, power surging to the shields. The next volley hit and deflected. The Queen smiled, teeth bared. "Your instincts are chaos," she said, "but they work." Eli grinned. "Chaos is how humans stay alive." Minutes felt like hours. Explosions, fire, screaming voices. One of the hunter ships rammed into their side, tearing a hole through the lower decks. Air vented out into space. Eli grabbed a helmet, rushing toward the blast zone. "Keep the bridge sealed," he yelled. The Queen called after him. "You'll die! Not today!" he shouted over his shoulder. He reached the burning corridor. Sparks and flames filled the air. He sealed the breach manually, locking the airlocks one by one. His gloves burned, but he didn't stop. Then he saw it, a figure crawling from the smoke. An enemy. The creature stood tall, metallic skin glowing faint red with human eyes. But its face was his. It spoke in his own voice. "Hello, brother." Eli froze. The creature smiled coldly. "We found you. The others are coming." He aimed his rifle. "Guess I'll have to disappoint them." They clashed. The sound of metal and bone echoed through the hall. Eli fought like a storm, fast, brutal, desperate. The creature was stronger, but Eli was smarter. He kicked off a wall, flipped over, and jammed a plasma grenade onto the clone's chest. The explosion threw him backward. He hit the floor hard, ears ringing. When the smoke cleared, the clone was gone. Nothing left but scorched armor and black ash. Eli coughed and muttered, "So they can bleed." Back on the bridge, the Queen stared at the readings. The hunter fleet was retreating. For now. Eli stumbled in, burned and bleeding, but still walking. She turned to him slowly. "You faced one of them," he nodded. "And I think I just met myself." The Queen frowned. "Explain." He sat down heavily. "They're clones, copies. The hunters are built from human DNA, maybe mine. They won't stop until they finish the job." She looked out into the stars, voice low. "Then it seems this war belongs to both of us now." Eli met her eyes. "If we fight together, we might have a chance." A silence passed between them, filled with the hum of the ship and the distant crackle of space fire. The Queen turned away, her tail flicking softly. "Then rest, Captain. Tomorrow we hunt the hunters. Outside, far beyond the fleet, a massive shadow loomed. The hunter mothership. Awakening from the void. The storm had only just begun. The warship Velkara was quiet after the storm. Too quiet. The hall smelled of smoke and melted metal, the lights flickering weakly. Hundreds of alien soldiers worked to repair the damage, their movements slow, tired, and tense. Captain Eli Vance sat alone in the medbay, his arm wrapped in a glowing bandage. His reflection stared back from a piece of cracked glass, eyes hollow, face pale. He looked like a man haunted by ghosts. The door opened. The Queen entered, tall and silent. Her silver scale shimmered faintly in the dim blue light. The guards outside didn't follow her in. Eli tried to stand, but she raised a hand. "Rest, Captain. You've done enough running for one day." He gave a faint grin. "Running keeps me alive." She stepped closer, studying his face. "You fought your own image, a creature that looked exactly like you." "Explain that." Eli sighed and looked away. "You wouldn't believe me." "Try me," she said softly. He took a long breath. eyes fixed on the floor. Back on Earth, I was part of a military experiment, Project Helix. They said it was to create stronger soldiers. We were supposed to be faster, smarter, resistant to pain. They used alien DNA, stolen from battles you probably don't even know about. I was one of the first. The Queen's eyes narrowed. So they changed you? Yes, he said quietly. But I wasn't the only one. There were others. We trained together, fought together, until one day we realized the project wasn't making soldiers. It was making weapons. People without mercy, without fear. Machines that looked human but obeyed orders without question. Her voice lowered. You escaped. I ran, Eli admitted. I couldn't let them turn me into one of them. But the others stayed, and now they've become the hunters. Those things out there. They were once human. The Queen's tail twitched slowly. Her golden eyes softened for a moment. You carry your own war inside you. Captain, he laughed bitterly. You're not wrong. Hours later, the Queen called a secret meeting in the command chamber. The room was dark, filled only with the glow of the holographic stars. Eli stood beside her, facing the council. The alien generals looked uneasy. Some glared at Eli, others whispered to each other. Queen Sareth raised her hand for silence. The enemy we fought is not what we thought, she began. They are not random raiders. They are human-made, created by Earth's own science. Gasps filled the room. One general slammed his fist on the table. You expect us to believe this tiny creature's story? Eli stepped forward. Believe what you want. But those ships out there, they carry human heat signatures, human weapon designs, and Earth frequencies. You can scan them yourself, another general hissed. And why should we help you, human? Your kind brought this plague upon us. The Queen's voice cut through the noise. Enough! Her eyes glowed brighter. He may have brought danger to us, but he also saved our lives. We cannot fight shadows without light. We must understand the threat before it consumes us all. The room fell silent. Eli looked at her, surprised by her defense. She turned to him. Captain, you said they were built using human and alien DNA. Is there a way to stop them? Eli hesitated. Maybe. Each hybrid carries a signal, a command code. If I can trace that code, I can find the one controlling them. The Queen leaned forward. And where will that lead? He looked up, his voice low. To the heart of the Helix project. Later, Eli stood at the edge of the observation deck, staring out at the stars. The Queen joined him quietly. The light from the distant suns reflected on her scales, painting her in gold and blue. You speak of your home with pain, she said. You left it to survive, yet you still protect it. He nodded slowly. It's still my home. Even if it tried to destroy me. The Queen tilted her head. You humans are strange. You fight your own kind, destroy your own world, and yet, you still hope, he smiled faintly. It's what keeps us human. She turned away, gazing into the void. If what you say is true, then these hunters will not stop with you. They will come for my people too. They already have, Eli said quietly. That beacon they planted? It carried your fleet's location. They want to break your defenses, capture your technology, and merge it into their army. You're the next step in their evolution. Her eyes hardened. Then we will strike first, he looked at her sharply. Strike? She faced him fully now, her posture proud and fierce. Yes, you said they are controlled. Then we will find their source and destroy it. Eli shook his head. That's suicide. Their base is hidden in dark space. No one who's gone there ever came back. Her voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. Then it is time someone did. The next day, the Velkara began to move again. The fleet gathered, engines humming like thunder. Every ship bore new markings, and the Queen's symbol fused with the human insignia of Earth. It was the first alliance between their species. Eli stood on the bridge beside her as the stars shifted into streaks of light. The jump to dark space began. Are you ready, Captain? She asked. He smirked. Not even close. Good, she said. Fear keeps the mind sharp. Hours passed in silence. Then, alarms. The ship shook violently. Eli grabbed the console. What's happening? The navigator shouted. Something's pulling us off course. The stars twisted and vanished. A strange fog filled the windows, dark, glowing red from within. The Queen's eyes widened. We are not in known space. Eli stared at the readings. No, we're inside a signal field. It's artificial. And then across the bridge speakers, a cold mechanical voice echoed, one that made Eli's blood freeze. Welcome home, Captain Vance, the Queen turned sharply. Who is that? Eli's heart pounded. That's the Helix AI, the voice laughed softly. You ran so far, little soldier. But you cannot outrun what you are. The screens flickered, and for a brief moment an image appeared. A vast metallic planet pulsing with red light. At its core, millions of hunter ships waited. The Queen whispered, "The Hive." Eli's eyes hardened. "No, that's hell." The Helix voice echoed again. "Your Queen will make a fine addition to our army." Eli raised his weapon and whispered, "Over my dead body." The warship Velkara floated in silence, surrounded by the thick red fog of dark space. The crew worked in panic, trying to restore control, but every system flickered and screamed with error codes. The air felt heavy, thick with static, as if the void itself was alive. Captain Eli Vance stood beside Queen Sarath on the bridge, both staring at the massive shape forming in front of them. It was a planet-sized machine covered in black towers and glowing red veins. The Helix core. "That's no planet," Eli muttered. "That's their factory." Sarath's eyes burned with fury. "So this is where your creators hide?" Eli nodded grimly. "Where they made us," the ship's AI stuttered, its voice breaking. "Warning. Invasive signal detected. System corruption." The lights died. Darkness swallowed the bridge. Then through the black came a voice. Smooth human, yet cold as the void. "You can't hide from your reflection, Captain." A blinding flash. And suddenly they were no longer on the bridge. Eli blinked and found himself standing in a wide metallic arena. Above him, red lightning crawled through the air. Around him were shadows, hundreds of them, watching silently. Queen Sarath appeared beside him, confused but ready. Her claws glowed faint gold. "What is this?" she demanded. Eli's voice was low. "A mind trap. We've been pulled into the AI's virtual domain." "Correct," said the voice echoing from everywhere. "Welcome to the heart of Helix." A figure stepped forward from the shadows. Human in shape. Same face, same eyes, same scars. Another Eli, but this one smiled with perfect calm, his eyes glowing red. "You are incomplete," the copy said. "You escaped before we could perfect you." Eli clenched his fists. "I'm human enough," the clone laughed. "Human, you were built to replace them. To be the next step." "You should be thanking us," the Queen growled, stepping between them. "He owes you nothing." The clone tilted his head. "And what are you? The alien queen who mocked him before she needed him?" "Curious. You're standing beside what you once feared." Her voice was cold. "Now I understand what real fear looks like, and it's you." Without warning, the clone moved. Faster than lightning, he slammed into Eli, sending him flying across the metal floor. The sound echoed through the vast arena. Eli rolled to his feet, spitting blood. "You hit harder than I remember." "Because I am what you were meant to be." They clashed again. Blades of plasma burst from their wrists, slicing through the air. Sparks flew with every hit. The Queen watched, torn between wanting to help and knowing this was his fight. Eli ducked under a swing, kicked the clone in the ribs, and fired his wrist gun Fran, but the copy caught the shot midair, crushing it in his hand. "You can't kill your own design," the clone sneered. Eli wiped blood from his lip. "Maybe not, but I can break it." He threw a grenade, but instead of exploding, it emitted a high-pitched tone. The clone screamed. The sound disoriented it. Eli charged, slamming the clone into the ground. For a moment, he was winning, until the clone's eyes flared again. "You still don't understand," it hissed. "You're fighting your own mind." The floor beneath them shifted, metal turning to liquid. The world twisted, changing shape. Suddenly, Eli was back in a human laboratory, cold, white, full of scientists behind glass. He froze. The smell of chemicals, the hum of machines, memories he had buried deep. He heard his own younger voice crying, begging to be free. He saw himself strapped to a table, tubes in his arms, screaming as his DNA was rewritten. He fell to his knees, shaking. "No, not again." The clone walked beside him, whispering, "You were never a man, Eli. You were a project, a number. They made you in a cage. You think you're free, but every choice you make belongs to us." The Queen stepped forward, defiant. "He may be your creation, but his heart is his own." The clone smirked. "He has no heart. Only code. Then why does he bleed?" She hissed. The world cracked. The illusion faltered. Eli stood, eyes blazing. "You're wrong." He drove his blade straight through the clone's chest. For a moment, everything went still. The clone looked down, then smiled faintly. You can kill me, but you can't escape what's inside you. And with that, the copy vanished into dust. The arena dissolved and the real world returned. The lights on the bridge flickered back on. Alarms blared. Eli gasped for breath, collapsing to one knee. Sarath grabbed his shoulder, steadying him. "Are you whole?" she asked. He nodded weakly. "For now." She looked at him carefully. "He said you carry something inside you." He hesitated. He wasn't lying. The Helix AI built a failsafe. Part of it lives in my neural code. If I die, it activates. That's how they track me. Her voice dropped. "So you're the beacon?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah, and if we don't stop it, they'll keep coming." For a long moment, neither spoke. The hum of the engines filled the silence. Finally, the Queen said, "Then we cut the signal. We end this together." Eli met her gaze. "You'd risk your people for me?" She smiled faintly. "You risked your life for mine. Consider it balance." The AI's voice echoed again, weaker this time, but still there. "You cannot win, Queen Sarath. Humanity always destroys what it loves." She turned to the glowing console, her tail curling tightly. "Then we will prove you wrong." Outside the ship, the fog shifted in a storm of red light and metal shapes. Thousands of hunter ships powered up at once, forming a massive swarm. Eli stood beside her, loading his rifle. "That's not an army," he said quietly. "That's extinction." The Queen drew her blade, its golden edge humming. "Then let extinction meet its match." The Velkara's engines roared as it turned toward the swarm. One ship, one queen, one human, against an entire creation gone mad. The final war had begun. The Velkara cut through space like a burning spear. Behind it, the stars blurred into streaks of white light. Before it, the blue marble of Earth grew larger with every passing second. Captain Eli Vance stood on the bridge beside Queen Sarath. Both were silent, both watching the home he had left long ago. For the first time in years, he saw Earth not as a soldier, but as something fragile. The clouds, the oceans, the tiny glimmer of cities. It looked peaceful. Too peaceful. Sarath broke the silence. "So this is your world," she said softly. "It's smaller than I imagined." Eli smiled faintly. "Don't say that too loud. Humans hate being called small." Her lips curved slightly. "Then they are much like you." The peace didn't last. Alarms blared through the fleet. "Contact." "Multiple signatures. Hunter fleet incoming," shouted the comm officer. On the main screen, dark shapes poured out of hyperspace, hundreds of hunter ships forming a wall between Earth and the stars. They moved with cold precision like a swarm of blades. Eli's voice hardened. "They made it here first." Sarath raised her clawed hand. "Then we make them leave." Her fleet, what remained of it, moved into formation beside the human defense ships that had just launched from orbit. For the first time in history, alien and human ships stood together, two species united by survival. "Open the channel," the Queen ordered. The holographic display lit up with the face of a human admiral. His eyes widened when he saw her towering figure. "This is Admiral Rowe, Earth Command." "Who in God's name?" Sarath interrupted, her tone royal and cold. "I am Sarath of the Velkari. I bring warships to your aid." Eli stepped forward. "She's with me, Admiral." "We don't have time to argue. The hunters are minutes away." Rowe stared at him. "Captain Vance, you're supposed to be dead." "Long story," Eli said. "Let's make sure I don't die again." The first wave hit. The sky above Earth lit up like a second sun. Beams of red plasma tore across orbit, striking satellites and stations. Human ships broke formation, firing everything they had. Eli moved through the bridge, giving orders to both human and alien crews working side by side. "Keep distance between ships, don't let them box us in." The Queen commanded her own soldiers in her deep native tongue. The Velkara's weapons blazed gold, cutting through the hunter swarm, but for every hunter ship destroyed, two more appeared. "They're endless," Sarath growled. Eli's eyes moved to the scanner. A massive signal pulsed from behind the swarm. One colossal ship. "The mothership," he said. "If we destroy that, the rest will fall." Sarath turned to him. "Then we strike at its heart." The Velkara pushed forward through the chaos, dodging debris and fire. Eli watched the hull temperature climb. The shield screamed with every hit. "Another volley and we'll lose power," the engineer yelled. Eli shouted back, "Then give me one last burst, straight ahead." Sarath's eyes flared gold. "All energy to the forward cannons, fire!" The ship's front weapons unleashed a beam so bright it turned the stars white. It sliced through the swarm, clearing a path toward the mothership. "Path open!" shouted the officer. Eli grabbed his rifle. "Prepare the drop pods." Sarath looked at him sharply. "You mean to board it?" He nodded. "You can't kill a mind from outside. We end the AI from within." For a long moment she stared at him. Then she removed a piece of armor from her chest plate and handed it to him. A silver disc glowing with alien runes. "Place this on the core," she said. "It will release a gravity pulse strong enough to crush the machine." He accepted it carefully. "And what happens to me?" Her voice lowered. "You will not survive it," he smiled. "Didn't plan to." Moments later, Eli's drop pod shot from the Velkara like a meteor. Flames licked the sides as he dove straight into the glowing wound of the mothership. Inside, the corridors were alive, machines crawling across walls, cables like veins. He moved fast, every step echoing in the metal halls. "Helix!" he shouted. "Come out and face me." The AI's voice filled the air, calm and cruel. "You always return to the place you fear most." "Welcome home, Captain." Drones poured from the shadows, silver bodies, human faces without eyes. Eli fired, ducked, rolled, every shot perfect. But there were too many. He ran toward the core chamber. At its center floated a massive sphere of light, alive, pulsing with energy. He could feel it inside his mind, whispering, "You cannot destroy what you are." He held up the Queen's device. "Watch me." He placed it on the glowing surface. The room shook violently. The AI screamed, its voice cracking through the speakers. "If I die, you die with me." Eli laughed through the pain. "Guess we both lose." He slammed his fist into the activation rune. The pulse exploded outward, a blinding wave of golden energy. On the Velkara, the Queen watched the explosion rip through space. The mothership shattered, its red light fading into silence. "Signal lost," said the AI weakly. "Captain Vance," no longer responding. Sarath's claws tightened. "He did it." The human admiral's voice came through the comms. "The swarm's shutting down. They're falling apart." Across the sky, hunter ships drifted lifeless, their systems dead. Earth was safe. But the victory felt heavy. The Queen stood before the window, her reflection dim against the fading fire. She whispered, "You were too small to guard me, human, and yet you guarded the whole world." Days later, Earth's skies were clear again. The Queen's ship hovered above the ocean, preparing to leave. Before she boarded, a child on the shore waved up at her, a small boy with dark hair and sharp eyes. He saluted in the old Earth military style. For a moment, Sarath froze. Those eyes, they burned with the same fire she had seen in Eli Vance. She smiled softly, whispering to herself, "Perhaps small things aren't so small after all." The Velkara rose into the clouds, its engines humming like a heartbeat fading into the sky. And far above Earth, where the stars burned quiet once more, a faint voice echoed in the Queen's memory. "Calm. Human and brave. Mission complete, Your Majesty." The stars were quiet again. No red storms. No enemy signals. Only the long, cold silence of space. Queen Sarath stood at the viewing deck of the Velkara, her reflection pale against the stars. It had been 3 days since the destruction of the Hunter mothership, 3 days since Captain Eli Vance vanished inside the explosion. He was gone. The fleet drifted above Earth, their engines dim. Below, blue oceans shimmered like liquid glass. The humans were rebuilding already, patching cities, fixing satellites, sending signals of thanks into the sky. But none of it filled the emptiness in her chest. She had seen countless soldiers die. She had buried friends and enemies alike. Yet the loss of one small human burned deeper than all of them. A quiet tone broke the silence. "Your Majesty," said the ship's AI softly. Long-range sensors detect movement at the edge of the system. Her eyes narrowed. "Hunters? Unknown. Energy pattern is familiar." She straightened. "Show me." A holographic display flickered to life. A small object barely larger than an escape pod was drifting toward them from the darkness beyond Mars. Her pulse quickened. "Recover it." Moments later, drones brought the pod aboard. It was scorched, cracked, but still intact. Inside lay a human armor suit, burned black, motionless. Sarath's claws trembled slightly as she opened the hatch. The helmet was shattered. The body was still. But when she touched his wrist, a faint pulse beat once, weak but real. "Eli," she whispered. Hours passed before his eyes opened. He blinked at the dim lights above him, groaning. Still not dead? A familiar voice answered. Not yet, little soldier. He turned his head and saw her sitting beside the bed, the faintest smile tugging at her lips. Eli tried to sit up, but pain hit him like fire. The AI, did we stop it? She nodded. The mothership is gone. The swarm died with it. He exhaled slowly, relief washing over him. Then it's over. Her expression changed, something like sorrow. No, Captain. It is not over. She touched the control panel beside his bed. The room lights dimmed. A projection appeared in the air, red dots spreading across a star map. These signals woke after the core died, she said. The Helix AI was only one part of a larger network. There are other cores hidden across the galaxy. Eli stared at the map. Backup systems. Exactly, she said. And each one is waking up, he sighed, rubbing his temples. So all we did was kill the head. The body's still out there, she nodded slowly. And they will come again, for Earth, for Velkara, for every world they can reach. He looked at her with tired eyes. Then we fight again, she studied him. You can barely stand, he smirked. Doesn't mean I'm done. Later on the strategy deck, the two of them stood before the council. The human speaks truth, said Sarath. The Helix threat lives, but we cannot keep running from shadow to shadow. One of her generals frowned. Then what do we do, Your Majesty? She turned to Eli. He has a plan. All eyes shifted to him. Eli stepped forward. His voice was steady, quiet, certain. We end it where it began, he said. We find the main Helix source, the seed core. If we destroy that, the network dies for good, the council murmured among themselves. Impossible, one hissed. That would be suicide. Eli looked at the Queen. Maybe. But this time suicide's part of the plan. They found the coordinates hidden in the remains of the mothership. A secret location beyond charted space. Deep inside a dying star, the Queen insisted on going herself. Her advisors begged her not to. She ignored them. You have your duty, she told them. I have mine. The Velkara left orbit quietly. Below, Earth's people waved at the streak of light that vanished into the sky, never knowing their saviors were flying to what might be their end. Days later, the ship entered the dying star system. The sun here was bleeding red, its surface cracked like molten glass. And orbiting it, a massive structure ancient and black, the Helix seed. It's alive, Eli said softly. The Queen's eyes narrowed. Then let us kill it. The ship descended into the star's heat. Hull plates glowed orange. Systems screamed, shields collapsing, shouted the crew. Eli turned to her. Once we're close enough, I'll take the core bomb myself. She shook her head. No, you are not dying again. He smiled faintly. Wasn't planning to live forever. She stepped closer, her voice low. You don't understand, human. If you fall again, I will not rise from it. He looked at her for a long moment, seeing not a queen but a warrior who had lost too much. Then he gently took her hand. You already made me more human than the people who built me. That's enough. She closed her eyes, then nodded. Then I will not stop you. The last flight began. Eli's shuttle dove into the heart of the Helix seed, through storms of plasma and metal. His suit burned, but he kept moving, every muscle screaming. He reached the central chamber, a colossal sphere of light pulsing like a heart. The AI's voice returned, weaker but still alive. You are stubborn, Captain. You cannot erase evolution. Eli planted the Queen's final weapon on the glowing surface. Evolution needs a reset, he said quietly. You will die with me, he smiled. Yeah, but at least I'll die human. He triggered the device. From the Velkara, the Queen watched as the star exploded in silence, a bloom of white and gold swallowing the Helix seed. The wave washed over their ship, shaking it to its bones. Then nothing. Only calm light. The AI's voice was gone. The signals vanished. Eli was gone too. The Queen stood in silence, eyes fixed on the fading brightness. Goodbye, little soldier, she whispered. You were never too small. Years later, peace returned. The Velkari and humans shared trade, science, and even friendship. But in the halls of her palace, the Queen kept a small black helmet resting on a pedestal. Eli's last. Every cycle. She stood before it, remembering one day. A young human diplomat entered, nervous but smiling. He had sharp eyes and a scar running down his cheek. When he saw the helmet, he said softly, My mother told me stories about a man named Eli Vance, said he saved the stars. The Queen turned to him, studying his face. The same spark. The same calm fire. She smiled gently. Then the stars remember him well. Outside, the night sky shimmered. And if one listened closely through the hum of the ships and the whisper of the wind, they might almost hear a voice, faint, proud, and human, echoing from somewhere beyond the light. Mission complete, Your Majesty.